configure with XPath in identifying the element. If element have an ID or name, it is always preferred to go with ID property or name property of the element. Some elements do not have an ID or name. There is a title property available. There is a value property available. There is SRC or H reference. Some other properties are available. I decided let us go with title or value or some other property. In that scenario, we can go for XPath. So what is the syntax of the XPath? A single forward slash indicates it is the absolute location of the element. Any XPath expression, if you start with a single forward slash, Selenium understands that it is the location of the element, absolute location of the element. Other than the absolute location, any other format of the XPath begins with two forward slashes. Two forward slashes either star or in place of star we can also go with tag name of the element. Why to use tag name? When to use tag name? I want to recognize a specific type of element, only input element. Perform the search operation, whatever the condition I mentioned here, only on a particular category of element, then we go for tag name. Here A for links, anchor element, input for text boxes, check boxes, radio button, IMG for image element. Like this, there are different tag names. If I know what type of element I'm searching for, then I go for tag name. No, any element will find not only a particular category of element, any element matching the given properties to be recognized, then I go for star. The rest of the syntax @ property name equal to property value. The property value must be enclosed in the single quotes. Yesterday we built two programs to understand how to use the other properties of the element in XPath. Let me continue this. A web calculator application. I want to build a program to check addition functionality working or not in this application. First, I want to make Selenium to click this one button, then plus button, then two button, finally equal button. Invoke the calculator application. After invoking the calculate application, I want to make Selenium to click this one button. Let us spy the properties of this element. These are the various properties of this element, one button element. You answer me which property you want me to take. ID property.
ID.
I'm taking the ID. What is the ID value here?
BT.
Button. There are many buttons. Okay, let's try. Driver dot find element by the ID and click it. Let us run this code. What happened?
Not clicking.
Maybe
It's not
that
clicking.
is not unique.
It is not unique, sir.
Sir, some other property will work out.
If really your code not able to identify the element, we should get no such element exception, right? We should get no such element exception. Here I'm not getting any exception, no such element exception. Then what is happening? If really your Selenium not able to identify a button element, definitely you should throw no such element exception. My code is not throwing any exception. Then what is happening?
Multiple but
Actually, there is a with same name there is a different ID. So he confused about which BTN or which he has to take.
Right. Understood what he said? There may be really if Selenium not able to find the element, you should throw an exception, no such element exception. I am not getting no such element exception, meaning it is finding some element. It is finding some element, but not the one button, some other element maybe.
Sir, we can take the on click.
1 second. What is the ID property of the first button?
BTN.
BTN. What is the ID property? BTN.
Same.
In this application, for every button, ID property same. Maybe this programmer implemented one button, copied and pasted the code. ID property not modified. ID property available, but not useful. There are other elements with the same ID. If there are many elements matching the same description, what happens? If there are multiple elements matching the same properties, what Selenium will do? Find element will do?
first element will
First element it will anyway.
First element.
recognize. Yes, sir.
It is clicking that MC button. It is clicking, your code is clicking that MC button. Because here MC button is the first element with the ID BTN. There is a problem happening. When you click MC button, there is nothing happening here. So ID is not suggested for my requirement to click the one button. Then what we can do?
Value is changing.
There is a value property here. 1. I want to use value property to make Selenium to find out this element. ID available, not useful here. Type available, but every button type property is same. Value is a unique property for the buttons here. So I decide, okay, let us go with the value property of the element to identify it. In your Selenium, do you have by value as a default locator?
No, sir.
No.
Do we have by value?
No.
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 Then what to do?
One click.
By using XPath, we can.
I want to use value property of the element to recognize the element, but I don't have by value as a locator. So we know any property of the element we can go with
Name.
XPath.
the XPath expression. 2 forward slashes, either star or tag name of the element. What is the tag name? Input.
Input.
I am asking Selenium identify input elements
At
whose
value.
value property is 1, then click it. Identify the input element whose value property is 1, then click it. It's clicking that 1 button. The same way I want to click the plus button. What is the value property? Plus. I want to make Selenium to click this 2 button. Value property 2. I want to make Selenium to click this equal button. Value property equal. So in this scenario, for all of the elements, value is a unique property. I'll go with the value. It's clicking 1 plus 2 equal to. If ID not available, name not available, we can go with XPath. We can use other properties. I have shown you another example that ID available but not useful. So alternatively, I want to choose some other property. Any property of the element we can use in XPath to determine the element. This is also another XPath example. Hope you understand how to use any property of the element in XPath. 2 forward slashes, either star or tag name, inside the square brackets at the rate property name equal to property value. Right. In some scenarios, we have to use multiple properties to recognize the element. Let's see how to use multiple properties in XPath to identify the element. Make a note of it. Using multiple properties in XPath. Using multiple properties in XPath. Try to understand this. In a web page, here I have some one element, here I have another element. The ID property of this element is X. The ID property of this element also X. The name property of this element is, for example, ABC. The name property of this element is, say, XYZ. It's element 3. Here I have one more element whose name property is XYZ. There are 3 elements here. I want to make Selenium to identify this element 3. Tell me what are the properties we can use. If I use ID property X, what happens? By ID X, what happens? Element 1 will be recognized.
Yes.
If I use the name property XYZ, what happens? Second element will be recognized. My requirement, I want to make Selenium to identify element 3. What to do?
Sir, both X and both ID and
Both
name.
ID property and name property together I can use. Only identify the elements matching the 2 conditions, not 1 condition. So in this context, we can use multiple properties to recognize the elements. How to use multiple properties to identify the elements? Same syntax. 2 forward slashes, either star, 2 forward slashes, the tag name. In any XPath expression, star or tag name we can use. Inside the square brackets, at the rate property 1 equal to property value, we can use either un or operator. Or meaning anyone, un meaning both properties are satisfied. And at the rate property 2 equal to property value, sorry, a single quote. So two properties also we can use in XPath expression to identify the element. Using multiple properties in XPath, note on the syntax. Two forward slashes star at the rate property name equal to property value and at the rate property 2 equal to property value. In place of and we can also use or. So I no need to explain about and or. And meaning when two are satisfied, both conditions are satisfied, then only find the element. Two properties are satisfied, then only find the element. Or any one of the properties satisfied, identify the element. In the entire XPath expression, in any XPath expression, in place of star, if we are searching for a particular category of element, we can go for tag name. Here, my code launches the Facebook application. I want to click on create new account. I want to make Selenium to click on create new account. What are the properties I can use to identify this element? First, we have to inspect the properties of the element. Any online team member inspect the properties of the element create new account? Inspect the properties of the element create new account. And tell me what are the properties we can use.
I think create new account is a link, sir. You can use link text.
No, I think perfectly I wanted the properties. If you think, Selenium will throw an exception. I wanted properties of the element, create new account. Try to spy the properties of the element. Try to spy the properties of the element.
We are not able to inspect. We are not able to inspect.
Right click is not available, so we cannot inspect element.
Right click is not working. Right click is not working.
Sir, it's
Yes, sir.
working.
No, sir, it is not working.
It
Right.
is not working.
So if it's not working, you cannot inspect the properties
Not
of the
working,
element.
sir. Yes, sir.
If click is not working, you don't have an option to see the inspect. Correct? For security reason, right click is disabled. But without inspecting the properties, I cannot decide which property I can take to identify the element. Correct? Then alternative, what we can do? Press Shift Control I in your keyboard. Shift Control I together. Already you got it. When you press Shift Control I, you will get the HTML details about the page. Now highlight the element. You drag down to bottom. You drag the window to bottom for more clear visibility. Now you right click is not functioning. Click on arrow icon, highlight the element for which you want to get the properties. Right. These are the properties here. Expand it. So finally it is an anchor element. Anchor meaning link element. There's a link text here, create new account. We can use a link text, create new account. It's an anchor element, right?
Yes, sir.
You please observe it is an anchor element. Anchor meaning link element. So there is a text property available for the anchor element. What is the text property here? Create new account. This we can use. It's an anchor element. Create new account is the text of the anchor element. I can use this text property now. If the right click is not functioning, in your keyboard you can press either F12 button or Shift Control I together. F12 or Shift Control I, you can see the HTML details about the page. Then we have to get the properties. Divide out, find the element, buy the link text, create new account, and click it. Now, after clicking on create new account, it is opening it's going redirecting to another page actually, but the page is not opening a new window. The page is getting loaded in the same window. But it's taking some little amount of time to navigate to the new window. I can use thread.sleep. I'm asking Selenium wait up to 2 seconds, then try to recognize the elements in this page. The next class I'll explain about implicitly wait. Synchronization topic. Thread.sleep is not really suggested. If the application taking more than 2 seconds, what happens? Again, you get no such event exception. In different areas, you need to make Selenium to wait for some amount of time rather than using thread.sleep at multiple stages in a script. Better to go with implicitly wait condition. Okay, here our focus on export discussion. I want to make Selenium to identify these radio button elements. I'm showing you the properties of this radio button. Input element, we have a name property. Also, we have a value property. We don't have ID property. Here, name property, there are 3 elements. For all 3 elements, name property is same. We have even value property. I want to choose a radio button, male radio button, second radio button. So which property you want me to use? Value property. Okay, I can go with value property here. So actually in the Facebook application I said, ID properties are dynamically changing. Hence I am not going with ID. I can use value property of the element. But maybe in the top there is one more radio button section. In the top there is one more radio button section. Radio buttons will have value property actually. 1, 2, 3, something like this. If I use simply only value property, the above radio buttons will be selected. Supposing this is your web page. Let's say there are two radio buttons here. I'm a student, I'm working. Gender, male, say female. Value property of this element is 1. Value property of this element is 2. Value property of this element is 1. And the value property of this element is 2. My requirement, I want to choose this one. If I use simply value property, what happen? Only value property, if I use what happen? This one will be selected. My requirement, I want to make Selenium to choose this one. Not only value property, I have to use even one more extra property, better to go for name property. Maybe here, the name property may be status something. Here the name property is some gender something. I want to use both name and value property to identify the element. So in this context, we can go for multiple properties. Here I want to use both name property and also value property to recognize the element. Tell me, divide out, find the element by the export, 2 forward slashes, identify the input elements whose name property value is this and whose value property value is this 2. Then click it. 2 properties I'm using here. When the element matching 2 properties, both name and value, then only recognize the element. I use AND. If I use OR, any one of the properties satisfied, identify the element. First one will be identified. It selected the second one. In some cases, we have to use multiple properties. If really you encounter a scenario that, okay, only by using multiple properties, uniquely the element can be identifiable. In that scenario, we have a flexibility with the export where you can use multiple properties to identify the element. Any one property of the element we can use. Even multiple properties also we can use in the export expression. Take the next one. Export functions. Export functions. Export functions. See, export provided, listen first. Export provided 2 functions to identify the element whose property values are dynamically changing. Starts hyphen, it is not underscore, hyphen. Starts with one function, contains another function of the export. Starts with and contains. Listen, there is some element here, maybe ID property or name property or title property or any other property. Let's say ID property. The ID property value first time like this, ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. Next time, ABC, 1, 2, 3, XYZ. Next time, ABC, okay, 3 to 1, XYZ something. But here, always starting value is constant, remaining value dynamically varying. In this scenario, I can use a function called starts with. Starts with is the function name. Two forward slashes, either star or tag name. Generally, any XPath expression, this is the formal syntax. Two forward slashes star or tag name. Inside the square brackets, you can give either one property or multiple properties. Also, you can specify any one of the XPath function. What is the function name? What is the function name here?
Starts with
Starts with
Stars hyphen with, not underscore hyphen. Generally, you know, your functions will be represented like this, correct? The functions will be represented like this. Don't mug up the syntax. Inside the square brackets, specify the function name, stars hyphen with. This function need two arguments. What is the purpose of this function? What is the purpose of this function? To identify the element whose specified property, ID property or name property or value property or title property, starting with specified value. How many arguments it needed? Two. Property name, comma, property value. You know, generally any function, if they need multiple arguments, the arguments should be separated with a comma. The first one is @ property name, comma, the property value is a syntax. It is used to identify the element whose specified property starting with specified value. Identify element.
డాడీ ఏ ఫోన్ లో మాట్లాడుతున్నాడు డాడీ ఇది అది తీసుకో వేరే ఫోన్ తీసుకో
Venkat, completely mute online time for today. I want to identify the element whose ID property value starting with ABC. Whose ID property value starting with ABC. The syntax will be go like this. Two forward slashes star, either star or tag name, inside the square brackets, starts with is the function name. This function need two arguments, property name and property value. Generally, you know, in any programming language, a function require more than one argument. The argument names must be separated with a comma. Property name is the first argument. Starting property value is the second argument. You note on this so that you'll understand. Take the first one, starts with. Take some description first. It is used to identify the element. It is used to identify element whose specified property starting with specified value. It is used to identify the element whose specified property starting with specified value. What is the syntax? Tell me, what is the syntax? Two forward slashes, either star or tag name. The function name is stars hyphen with. First, specify the function name. It needs two arguments. @ property name is the first argument.
Property value.
Starting value, property value is the second argument. This is the syntax. Note on this diagram first so that you will understand that if an element ID property starting with ABC, rest of the value dynamically changing, then I can go for this. In this scenario, what is the code we have to write? In this example, what is the code we have to write? What is the property name? ID. What is the property value? ABC. So identify an element whose ID property starting with ABC remaining can be anything. Note on this as it is. Yesterday we have observed in the Facebook application some ID property U underscore 0 underscore D something. Starting value is constant, remaining value dynamically changing. First we used ID property yesterday. We got an exception. Later we have observed that ID property value dynamically changing. Beginning value is constant, remaining value dynamically changing. Where I can go for? Starts with. Identify the element whose ID property starting with this value, rest of the value can be anything. To identify the element whose property values are dynamically changing, XPath provided two functions. One is starts with, other one is contained. The beginning value is always constant. Remaining value dynamically changing, use starts with function. Somewhere some value is constant, remaining value dynamically changing, then we have to go for contains function. Turn taken?
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, in that element box,
Which element box? Tell me.
that element ABC, the ID property is constant and value property changing.
I
Sir,
need to
in-
understand what you are posting.
Sir, excuse me. Sir, which ID name property will Selenium recognize, sir? If the ID property,
Try to understand this example, everybody. Now, if you post the question properly, I can able to answer. See here, yesterday here we got the problem, right? Login. Let's build the code again. Here the ID property is email. Yesterday we built this code, but our code not clicking on the login button. Alternatively, we go with some other property. Driver dot find the element by the ID email. Oh, sorry, it's not click. Input some data. Send keys. Identify the password element. Driver dot find the element by the ID password. Send keys. I am giving some value, say QH. Now I want to click on this login element. We have observed yesterday we used it first. We have used ID property. This ID property value. I am pasting the ID value here. This application I am closing. Again I am opening. Oh, not sorry. Again, we are scanning the ID property of this element. This ID. This time this ID. And always this beginning value is constant. Remaining value only dynamically changing. In this scenario, I can go with start with function. Two forward slashes, either star or tag name. What is the function name? Start hyphen with property name is ID, comma, so what is the starting value? This is constant, remaining value dynamically changing. This I can use.
Sir, which one will Selenium recognize, sir?
Which one recognize meaning? I didn't understand your question. So driver dot find the element by the X path. We are asking Selenium identify element whose ID value starting with U underscore 0 underscore D. Remaining value can be anything. What we have to do after finding? Click. It is recognizing the login button Nawaz. Login button ID property starting with U underscore 0 underscore D. Remaining value dynamically changing. I'm not considering the entire ID property value because the entire value is dynamically changing. But we observe beginning value is always constant. It's taking time. It's clicking on login. It clicked on login. So here we made Selenium to identify the element login button based on the ID property, but I was not used complete ID property because we have observed the ID property value beginning is constant, remaining value dynamically changing. This is one example where we can use starts with function. Identify some element whose ID is starting with U underscore 0 underscore D, remaining do not consider. Does online team confirm this code is understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Let me give another example to understand start with, when to use start with. In this application, if I go to employee list here, employee list, you are getting all these employee details. I want to test a scenario that I want to check one scenario that admin able to delete, select and delete all employees at one shot or not. That is also one test scenario, right? Admin able to select and delete the employees or not. That is also one expected functionality in the product. Right. I want to select all of these checkboxes and click delete button. Select all these checkboxes, then click the delete button. That is the coding requirement. I am spying the properties of this element. It is an input element. The type property value is checkbox. There is ID property here. What is ID property? OHRM list underscore check select record underscore 1214. Maybe that employee number or something. 1214. Okay. See for the second one. OHRM list underscore check select record underscore 1308. The OHRM list underscore check select record underscore 1320. Oh. What is your observation here? ID property value, starting value is constant. Employee number dynamically appended to the ID. Employee number dynamically getting appended to the ID. This is that ID property. The beginning value is constant. remaining value dynamically getting updated. But this is the beginning value. For all of these checkboxes, this is the ID starting value, correct? ID starting value, remaining something available, whatever it may be. I want to make Selenium to identify all of these checkboxes, then click delete button. First, let us build the code for RNHRM login first. Yesterday I built this code. Launch the RNHRM application, enter username, enter password and click login. Now we have the code up to login. We have the code up to login. Now I want to click on PIM link, also employee list link. Driver dot find the element by the link text. PIM, click it. Also, I want to click on this add employee. Oh, sorry, not add employee. Not add employee, sorry. I have to go for
Employee list. Employee list.
employee list. What is happening? Time taking.
Thread sleep.
We have to use thread.sleep. The next class we'll discuss about it.
Sir, whether we have to use this thread dot slip every time?
Here, we have a function called implicitly wait. Instead of using thread.sleep every time, we have an option called implicitly wait. And in the next class, I will discuss about this in detail. Okay? As of now, I am using it. I'm asking Selenium, wait up to how much time? What is the default timeout in Selenium? What is the default timeout in Selenium to find out the element?
0 seconds.
0 seconds. Using implicitly wait, we are asking Selenium, wait up to 20 seconds to identify the element if there is a problem in finding the element before throwing no such element exception. If you configure at browser level, driver level, there and there you no need to use thread.sleep. While executing this test case, in order to find any element, Selenium will wait up to 20 seconds when there is a problem in finding the element. If really an element is identified in 2 seconds, it would do not wait for remaining 18 seconds. The maximum time to identify the element is 20. If you use this, you no need to use thread.sleep anywhere in your code. If there is a problem in finding the element, implicitly wait, make Selenium to wait up to configure time to recognize the element before throwing no such element exception. Now I am running this code. See, we don't get any exception now. It went to employee list. No exception now. It went to employee list. So what is your requirement here? I want to make Selenium to select all of these checkbox element. And we have observed for all of these checkbox element, for all these checkbox elements, ID property beginning value is constant. ID, employee ID dynamically getting attached to the ID. It is the beginning value, which is constant. Remaining value dynamically changing. So you tell me now, what is the XPath expression to recognize all these elements? My requirement, I want to make Selenium to capture all of these checkboxes into Java list so that I can build the code to select all one by one. Two forward slashes, they are actually input elements. I wanted all these input elements, all input element, checkbox element, matching the given condition. Yes. What is the function name? Dot with. What is the property name? ID, comma property value. This one. The beginning value is always this, remaining value dynamically changing. I said Selenium, do not consider the last value, only identify the element or elements whose ID is starting with this. This is my XPath expression. Okay. You want to identify only one checkbox or all checkboxes?
All checkboxes.
So dot find
Find
Elements.
elements matching this XPath. Find elements, not element, whose ID property starting with OHRM list underscore check select record. What is the return type of this?
List. Web element.
Web elements. I'm storing in a Java list. I stored in a Java list. The return type is a list of web elements I stored in a Java list. What's stored in Java list now? All checkbox elements are available in the Java list. I want to select all one by one. How many are there? I do not know. I want to select all the elements one by one. I'm creating a loop. Int I equal to 0, right from the very first checkbox, I less than checklist dot size, RList dot size, I plus plus. Access the 0th web element till the last element available in the list. Now, checklist is array list that contain the web elements. Get ith web element, 0th web element in the first iteration. What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Get title.
On the web element. Click the 0th web element. Next iteration. Click the next web element. Next iteration. Click the second web element. Third, fourth, fifth, till the last. You made Selenium to capture all elements whose ID is starting with this into a array list. By constructing a for loop, you made Selenium to select all the checkboxes one by one till the last. Here again I explained you how to use, what is the practical usage of starts with function. What is doing? Selecting all of the checkboxes one by one. It selected all checkboxes one by one. Then you can continue actually clicking delete button, whatever you want to do. Here I demonstrated another practical usage of the starts with function. Hope understood this?
Yes.
Online team understood this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You know, if I use find element, what happened? The first checkbox will be selected, only one. Find elements is reading all elements matching the given condition stored in an array list. Let's say there are about 20 checkboxes. 0 to 19, one by one, we have to click. I constructed a for loop and performed a click action on the web element. What type of data available in the list? Web element. On the elements, you are performing a click action. The
Excuse me,
another
sir.
example to understand export starts with function. If you have any questions on this, I'll clarify.
Sir, we can use for each loop as well. No?
Yes, we can. You can use, because as you want to select all, you can use for each loop. That is implicit. Either for loop or for each loop, that is your choice. Let's say there are about 20. I want to select only few. I go for loop. We can also use for each loop.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. I don't know I am correct or not, but I think we can
One second.
go
One
without
second. I'll finish off it.
Sure, sure.
I'll finish up it using for each loop. Then I'll explain. For, hope you remember the syntax for each loop.
Yeah, web element.
For the data type. What is the data type?
Web element.
Right. Web element. The name of the variable, maybe element. Colon, name of the array or name of the array list. Checklist. What type of data available in the array list? Web elements. Data type web element. This is my variable name. Colon, name of the array or name of the array list. Now, tell me the code. I want to click all elements one by one. Tell me the code.
Driver dot,
Element, okay.
Why driver dot once again?
sorry, checklist.
Element dot.
Already you have taken the elements in an array.
Element dot. Element dot.
Element dot.
Get off. Element of.
Get.
Not get again. For each loop, accessing all of the elements available in the array list one by one. If there are 10 web elements available, in the first iteration, element will have 0th web element. In the last iteration, element will have last web element, 9th web element. On the element, that is web element, perform the click action. Done. Same thing. Somebody else posting a question, what is that? So in place of for loop, we can also go with for each loop. What is the syntax here? For first data type. What is the data type here? Web element. Name of the variable, maybe X. Instead of X, I use a meaningful name element, that's it. Or checkbox. Checkbox. Colon, name of the array list. Checklist. Here your code will be Checkbox is a variable of type web element. On this checkbox, you want to perform a click action. That's it. Right. Take the next one. Contains. 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 Like starts with, we have another function called contains. Listen. There is some element in my web page. Is ID property or name property or any other property. ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. Next time, XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3. Next time, 1, 2, 3, XYZ, ABC. Dynamically value is changing. Previously, always beginning value is same, constant. Remaining value dynamically changing. Here, entire value is changing, but somewhere some value is constant. Here it is starting, here we have ABC. Here I have ABC. Here I have ABC. In this context, I can go for contains. Tell me the syntax now. I no need to explain. Tell me the syntax now. Two forward slashes. Either star or tag name.
Contains.
Name of the function. What is the name of the function? Contains. Remember, starts with contains, function names all in lowercase. Completely in lowercase. Contains, this is your function syntax. At the rate,
Name.
property name is the first argument. Property value is the second argument. Right. Now in this example here, two forward slashes, star, inside the square brackets, the function name contains, at the rate, what is the property here? Name, comma, property value is A, B, C, enough. It can identify the element wherever it is. Note in this example. Contains, first take the description. First take the description. It is used to identify the element. It is used to identify element. It is used to identify elements whose specified property contains specified value. Whose specified property contains specified value. Whose specified property contains specified value. Note down this. Now, if you note down this diagram, the sample page, you will understand perfectly when to go for contains. First time the ABC available at the beginning. Next time it is available in the middle. Finally, somewhere ABC available, remaining value dynamically varying. If always starting value is same, remaining value dynamically changing, I can go for starts with. Somewhere some value is constant, rest of the value dynamically changing, better to go for contains. Understood when to go for contains? The code open Facebook application.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Can I ask one thing? Sir, actually,
Yes, yes.
in the last code, we have used a for loop. But in that code, we didn't incremented that I plus one or then incrementation code. But we are selecting, we are clicking and selecting all the element. So how it is going to the next element and selecting
You refer the
without
class what I explained about for each loop. What is for each loop? Any other online team member answer this question? Answer his question.
it will apply the
Sir, it is used to run the code
Each
for
loop.
every element in array
Elements
list.
present in array list. Every element present.
For every elements in the array
You
list.
refer the notes I given about for each loop.
Sir, it
The
will
person who
select.
questioned the question. You refer the notes I given about for each loop.
yeah, yes, sir. I refer.
Available? What is available? It is used to access. It will access automatically all of the elements available in the array list. You no need to increment and nothing.
Okay, sir. No, got it.
For loop and for each loop. I said clearly, both purpose is almost same. For loop is, let's say there are about 100 items in a list. I want to access only first 10 elements, last 10 elements, middle 10 elements. You can control the range, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 90 to 100. That you can configure range. For each loop specifically designed to access all of the elements present in array list. Available? The topic identified or no such topic exception? For each loop. Yes, online team confirm me?
Yes, sir. Identify.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it is there.
I given the examples also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Integer one example I have given. String one example I have given. No incrementation, no starting value, no ending value, no increment because it is specially designed to access all of the elements present in array list. Right. Now, in this Facebook application, I want to identify this element this time using placeholder. What is the placeholder value? Email, a space, address, a white space, or a white space phone, a white space number. Supposing somewhere some lengthy description available. A property value is a lengthy description. What I can do? Identify the element whose placeholder contains phone, number, something like this. In the entire property description, somewhere it is available, then find out the element. Placeholder is the property. Revert dot, find the element by the export to / star. What is the function name?
Contain.
Contains. One second. Contains. What is the property name?
Either it placeholder.
Placeholder.
Placeholder is a property, comma, property value,
Phone number.
phone number or just phone, whatever it may be, just phone. Identify the element whose placeholder contains phone, then enter some data. We say demo. I'm not giving the entire property value. In the entire placeholder property, somewhere phone available, then identify the element and enter the data. If some property value is a lengthy description, or in the property value, some value is constant, remaining value dynamically changing every time, then I can go for contains like this. So this is a usage of the properties in XPath. This is how we can configure properties in the XPath. Selenium WebDriver provided some locators, ID, name, link text, partial link text, class name, tag name, etc. Still, if you want to use any other property of the element in XPath to find out it, there is a separate option given called XPath. In XPath, you can use any property of the element, title property, value property, H-reference property, SRC property. Also, if you feel one property is not sufficient to find out the element, better to go for multiple properties. You have an option, we can also use multiple properties. If the beginning value is always same, remaining value dynamically changing, we can use an XPath function called start with. Somewhere some value is constant, remaining value dynamically changing, or there's a lengthy description, I can go for contains. And also, no property helping you to find out the element, we can go for location of the element. Now let me explain how to use location of the element in the XPath. Note on this. Using location of the element in XPath. Using location of the element in XPath. Using location of the element in XPath. Location of the element in XPath. Try to understand this. In my web page, I have multiple divisions. Division 1, header section. I have one more division here, division 2, footer section. Here I have some element. This element do not have properties. One or two properties are available, but other element also has same properties. Some properties are available but not helping Selenium to recognize the element uniquely. As no property helping to find out the element, least option I have to go for location. I repeat, location always the least importance. Always better to go for properties to identify the element, not location. So I decided let us go for the location because properties are not helping to find out the element. Let us go for the location. What is the location of this element? Selenium start fetching the element from? Selenium start locating the element from?
Top left.
Start of the page.
From beginning of the web page, starting of the web page. What is the beginning of the web page? What is the beginning tag name of any HTML page?
HTML.
Any web page begins with HTML. If you give the complete route to the Selenium, if I give complete route to the Selenium from the HTML, go to HTML body, move on to division 2. In the division 2, identify this element. If I give the complete route of the element to the Selenium from the beginning till the end, it is called absolute location, absolute XPath. Full XPath called absolute XPath, absolute location of the element. HTML, any HTML page will have a HTML body of the page. Then go to division 2. In the division 2, identify the element. It is called absolute XPath. The other way. If you consider this classroom as a web page, if I ask Selenium start locating from beginning of the classroom, go to 5th row, find the second person. Go to 5th row, find the second element. That is absolute location from the beginning of the page. I know the student I am looking for available in the logs. Why to start locating the element from the beginning of the web page? If I ask Selenium Start locating the element from somewhere in the page, not from the very beginning. From somewhere in the page. That is called, tell me, full, absolute, from somewhere in the page. Not full.
Relative.
Partial export. Partial location. That is called partial export. It is something like this. Say some interviews are happening at Raheja Mindspace, which is located in high-tech city. You ask me, sir, can I have the details about the venue? One option, I'll give you the complete route from QH building till Raheja Mindspace building. This 8 kilometers of Google map is called absolute map, absolute export, full location. From beginning, where are you now? Current location? QH. From QH, from the beginning of the page location till the end, it is called absolute export. When I'm explaining you the route, you stop me, you said, so I know up to Jubilee Hills checkpost. From there, I do not know the remaining location, remaining part. Now what I will say, I'll give the route only, I'll explain the route only from Jubilee Hills checkpost till Raheja Mindspace. Only the partial location, not full route. It's called partial export. It is also something like this. I know the element I am looking for available at the footer section, the bottom of the page. Why to start searching the element from the beginning of the page? I'll ask Selenium, directly you go to the middle of the page, somewhere in the page, start locating the element. Don't start from the very beginning. Start locating the element from the division 2, not from the very beginning. It is called partial export. Partial export. Coming to partial export here, 2 forward slashes. Actually, absolute export begins with a single forward slash. Giving single forward slash also not mandatory, optional. But partial export, other than absolute export, must begin with 2 forward slashes. 2 forward slashes. Division 2 and element. If you give the complete location of the element from the beginning of the web page, HTML, till end of the child node, it is called absolute location of the element. If you give some part of the location of the element to the Selenium, it is called partial export. Absolute export begins with HTML, single forward slash HTML here, forward slash, single forward slash is optional, whereas partial export begins with double forward slashes. First of all, location not suggested. If no property is helping you to determine the element, least option we have to go for the location. Finally, we have an option to use the location also. Note on this diagram, I'll give the notes. What is the notes I have given? Using location of the element. Take some short notes, then you can take this diagram. If no property is helping, to identify the element, if no property is helping to identify the element, if no property is helping to identify the element, then we can go for location. Then we can go for location. Then we can choose location. Continuation. You can specify either absolute location, nothing but absolute export, absolute location, or partial location of the element, or partial location of the element. You can specify either absolute location or partial location of the element. Now you note down this diagram. Is the diagram explaining anything to you? Red color is absolute XPath. From the beginning till end of the child node is called absolute. From the HTML section till end of the child element is called absolute. If we ask Selenium start locating the element from somewhere in the page, it is called partial XPath. If no property is helping Selenium to find an element, alternatively we have to go for location of the element. We can specify either complete location of the element to the Selenium, that is called absolute location, absolute XPath. You can also specify some part of the location of the element called partial XPath, partial location. Here absolute XPath begins with HTML, a single forward slash HTML, whereas partial XPath begins with double forward slashes. Remember, other than absolute XPath, any other format of the XPath begins with two forward slashes. Maybe you are using either properties, conditions, or partial location. Other than absolute XPath, any other format of the XPath begins with double forward slashes. Again, in the absolute XPath, giving single forward slash is not mandate, optional. You can use or you can skip it. Right. Okay. For today, I stop here, and tomorrow I'll extend the discussion. We'll see multiple examples of using the locations. First of all, you need to have the clarity when to use the location. We build some script using properties. When you face a problem, you understand, okay, property is not helping me to find out the element. If there are no properties helping, then only we have to go for the location. Otherwise, property is always recommended. Finding a person based on the name is recommended. Other ID not recommended based on the seat number. Not based on the seat number, correct? Understand? Because the location of the element may vary from build to build. In the first version, we have the login section on the left side. In the modified build, the login section may be moved to the right side. If I give the route to the Selenium, always Selenium go in the same route. But the route is changed. Location not suggested. If what to do if no properties are helping to find out the element, finally we have to go for the location. So tomorrow I'll explain about using these locations. Absolute XPath, partial XPath, CSS selector. Then I think you have remember yesterday I used some small utilities, try XPath and crow path. What is this try? You remember? Just for one scenario I used it. Tomorrow I'll teach you in detail about how to use the try XPath, how to use the Chrome path to decide the XPath expressions. Okay? Thank you. We continue tomorrow. Thank you, online. We will continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I
Hello.
can. Yes.
Sir, yesterday I got one offer letter. Based on the manual testing. The company called Divami. In the designation, in functional reviewer, sir. The designation name. Is it QA?
Functional?
Or is it functional reviewer, sir?
Functional reviewer. Which company?
Divami Digital Lab, sir. It is in Gachibowli.
One second. Tell me the company name.
Divami Digital Labs.
Just give me a second.
Divame Design Labs, sir. Design Labs.
Yeah, yes. Or the designation you have given?
Functional reviewer, sir.
Yes, it is related to functional testing only.
They're asked on manual testing.
It's related to
for
functional
the-
testing only. No, see, designation you no need to worry about. Role you have to worry. Designation, say for example, if you join in Infosys company, whether you are a UI developer, whether you are a web developer, whether you are a mobile developer, whether you are a tester, your designation will be IT process executive.
Okay, sir.
Understand? Your designation is a IT engineer. Okay? Separately, no designation like tester and developers. Finally, we are working in an IT team, that's it. Okay?
Sir,
Role you have to worry, not the designation. Right.
Sir, thank you. First
Thank you.
of all, I
Thank you.
want
We
to
continue
thank you,
tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Now, every day, minimum our students are getting minimum 5 to 10 people from different batches. You can also easily remaining people also. Okay. So content wise, we are strong. Don't worry about it. You prepare well. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.